Oh, say it ain't so. According to the Ring magazine, Gervonta Tank Davis is now in negotiations for his next fight, and the name on the table is Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Now, at first glance, that part isn't shocking. Tank himself already hinted that a rematch with Cruz was likely, especially after his controversial draw with Lamont Roach. Fans have been expecting this. The first fight between Tank and Cruz was one of the toughest of Tank's career, a gritty, physical battle where Cruz pushed him harder than most opponents ever have. So a rematch? That makes sense. But here's where things start to get interesting. Because this time, Tank isn't just running it back. He's reportedly moving up in weight. Again, this fight is expected to take place at 140 pounds. And that's where the conversation shifts. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't the narrative for years that Tank was too small for certain fights? Wasn't that one of the main reasons fans were giving when discussions about fighting bigger names in higher weight classes came up? So if Tank is now comfortable moving up to 140 for Pitbull Cruz, then it's only natural for people to start asking, why not Devin Haney? Why not other top fighters already established at that weight? This is where the debate really begins. Because boxing fans don't just look at who you fight. They look at who you don't fight. And when a move like this happens, it raises eyebrows. To be clear, moving up in weight is never a small decision. At 140 pounds, the fighters are naturally bigger, stronger, and often more durable. The margin for error shrinks. Power carries differently. Speed can feel different. Everything changes. So for Tank to even consider this move shows confidence. But at the same time, it also opens the door to criticism. Critics will say this follows a familiar pattern. They'll argue that certain high-risk fights, especially against elite technical fighters, seem to get delayed or avoided, while others are prioritized. Supporters, on the other hand, will see it completely differently. They'll say Tank is simply making smart business decisions. He's choosing fights that generate the most attention, the most money, and the most control over his career. And in today's boxing landscape, that matters more than ever. But there's another layer to this situation, and it has to do with belts. Not too long ago, Tank made it very clear how he felt about titles. He questioned whether they really mattered. He talked about sanctioning fees. He suggested that belts weren't the ultimate goal anymore. In his view, big fights and big moments carried more value than chasing titles. Now, suddenly, there's talk of him potentially fighting for a WBA title at 140. That's a noticeable shift, and fans notice shifts like that. So what changed? Is it about legacy? Is it about timing? Or is it simply about opportunity? Because in boxing, timing is everything. A fight that doesn't make sense one year can suddenly become the perfect move the next. And sometimes, decisions that look inconsistent on the surface are actually strategic behind the scenes. Still, the questions remain. If Tank is willing to move up now, why not before? Why this opponent? Why this moment? And then there's the bigger picture. At 140 pounds, the competition is stacked. This isn't a quiet division. This is where things get serious. You got names like Devin Haney, known for his technical skill and defensive ability. Shakur Stevenson, one of the most precise and intelligent fighters in the sport. Keyshawn Davis, a rising star with speed and confidence. And several others who are hungry for big fights and bigger opportunities. So stepping into this division doesn't just mean one fight. It comes with expectations. If Tank wins at 140, people won't just celebrate the victory. They'll immediately start asking, what's next? Who's next? Because once you enter a new division, especially one this competitive, it's hard to step back without answering those questions. And that's why this potential fight with Pitbull Cruz matters more than it seems. On the surface, it's a rematch, a chance to settle unfinished business. A fight fans already understand. But underneath that, it could be something bigger. It could be a test run at 140. A way to see how Tank performs against a familiar opponent at a higher weight. A way to build confidence before facing new challenges. Or it could be a calculated move. A way to control the narrative. To stay in high-profile fights without immediately stepping into the deepest waters of the division. And again, depending on who you ask, that's either smart strategy or careful matchmaking. The reality is probably somewhere in between, because boxing today isn't just about skill. It's about timing, positioning, business, and long-term planning. Tank Davis has always operated a little differently from traditional fighters. He doesn't follow the usual path. He doesn't chase every belt. He doesn't rush into every big-name matchup. Instead, he picks his moments. And when he does step in the ring, it's usually on his terms. So this move to 140, it fits that pattern. But it also raises the stakes. Because now, fans are watching more closely than ever. Not just for the result of this fight, but for what comes after. Is this just one more big event? One more payday? One more chapter before a potential exit from the sport? Or is this the beginning of something new? A real run at 140? A chance to prove he belongs among the best in another division? That's the question nobody can answer yet. What we do know is this. A rematch with Pitbull Cruz at 140 isn't just another fight. It's a statement. And depending on what happens next, it could define the next phase of Tank Davis's career. Because once you make a move like this, there's no hiding from the expectations that come with it. Now it's just a matter of time. Is this just a rematch? Or the start of something bigger?